All right, let's dive in. Today, we're unlocking the rulebook for some of the biggest, most ambitious construction projects on the entire planet. We're talking about FIDIC contracts. These are the essential frameworks that make massive international projects even possible. But to really get why they're so important, you first have to understand the massive problem they solve. I mean, just think about it for a second. How do you actually build something like a skyscraper or a bridge that connects two different countries? When you've got teams from all over the world, billions of dollars at stake, and just mind-boggling complexity, you can't just rely on a handshake, right? You need a system, a common language that everybody understands and, more importantly, trusts. And that's exactly where FIDIC comes in.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll break down what FIDIC actually is. Then we'll look at how these super important contracts are designed. After that, we'll explore the famous color-coded books. We'll touch on some specialized contracts for unique jobs. And finally, we'll decode what it means when you hear a contract is harmonized.
Okay, let's get right to the heart of it. What exactly is FIDIC? Well, the acronym stands for the International Federation of Consulting Engineers, but what they're really famous for are these standardized contract templates. And look, these are so much more than just legal documents. They are basically master blueprints that define how everyone on a massive project, from the client to the builder, is going to work together. And maybe most importantly, they decide who is responsible for what, especially when things go wrong. In a nutshell, they allocate risk. So you might be wondering, who actually comes up with these contracts? It's definitely not just a couple of lawyers sitting in a room. There's a really deep, thoughtful process that goes into building the framework for a billion-dollar project. And what's crucial to understand is that the contract isn't some piece of paper you just sign at the beginning and then file away. No, it's more like a living framework. It starts taking shape right at the project's initiation, it gets fleshed out during the planning phase, it's stress-tested during risk assessment, and then it guides everything during the actual administration of the contract. A whole committee of experts looks at what's called the nature of the project. What are we actually building here? Is it a pretty straightforward residential building, or is it a ridiculously complex highway system? What's the budget? Are we building somewhere with a stable climate, or are we dealing with extreme weather? All of these things, from the location to how many stakeholders are involved, influence which contract gets chosen and exactly how it gets tailored. And this brings us right back to the core job of these contracts, managing risk. The goal is to identify every single thing that could possibly go wrong. We're talking technical glitches, budget overruns, even political instability, and then clearly allocate the responsibility for that risk to the party that's in the best position to handle it. It's all about fairness and making the whole project run way more efficiently. Okay, now this is where it gets really practical. FIDIC offers a whole suite of different contracts, and they're almost always known by the color of their covers. The best way to think about it is like a highly specialized toolbox. You wouldn't use a sledgehammer to fix a watch, right? Well, same idea here. You need to pick exactly the right tool for the job. So let's take a look inside. So here's a quick look at the main players. You can see the red, yellow, silver, green, and gold books. And as you can see, each one is designed for a totally different scenario, from your traditional construction job all the way to these massive, all-in-one, ready-to-go turnkey projects. Let's compare two of the most common ones, the red book and the yellow book. The key difference between them is actually super simple. It all comes down to one question: who does the design? With the red book, the employer provides the design, and the contractor just builds it. Simple. But with the yellow book, the contractor is responsible for both designing and building the project. Now let's look at the two opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got the silver book, which is for these huge, complex turnkey projects. You might also hear it called EPC. That's engineering, procurement, and construction. Basically, the contractor handles absolutely everything and just hands over a ready-to-use facility at the end. The green book, on the other hand, is the total opposite. It's a simplified, short-form contract made for smaller, less complicated jobs. Then there's the gold book, which is pretty unique. It takes that design and build model one giant step further. With this one, the contractor doesn't just design and build the project. They're also responsible for operating it for a long time, sometimes up to 20 years. This creates a genuine long-term partnership. So beyond those main color books, FIDIC also has an even more specialized set of tools for very, very specific jobs. For instance, there are specific contracts for highly specialized work, like the Emerald Book for tunneling or the Blue Book for dredging. But the one I really want to zoom in on for a second is a special version of the Red Book, which is often called the Pink Book. And this brings us to a really crucial term you'll hear a lot in the world of global finance: harmonized. So, what on earth does that actually mean? You'll often see this exact phrase, especially in the title of that pink book we just mentioned, which is used for projects funded by major international institutions. To put it simply, harmonized just means that the standard FIDIC contract has been modified and standardized to meet the very specific, very strict requirements of the world's major multilateral development banks. We're talking about huge institutions like the World Bank. So why does this matter so much? Well, it's all about efficiency. It's a win-win. The banks can make sure their strict requirements are met on every single project they fund, no matter where it is in the world. And at the same time, contractors benefit because they can use a familiar, predictable format they already know inside and out. It means less time arguing over tiny details and more time actually building the roads, power plants, and clean water systems that millions of people rely on. So, when you boil it all down, FIDIC isn't just about paperwork. It's the common language, the shared rulebook, and the fair framework that allows all of humanity to build these incredible, complex things together right across borders. Which leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about for the future. As we face these huge new global challenges, things like climate change and the need for massive digital infrastructure, what will the next generation of these projects look like? And what will the next FIDIC book be? What color do you think it'll be?